topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Hello and welcome to Fearless Fabulous You. I am your host, Melanie Young, and it is the day before Thanksgiving. I don't know about you, but we're kind of having an eclectic when we're visiting different friends. We're Friendsgiving this year, and I have no idea what to expect other than my husband David bought a Popeye's Cajun turkey that we're going to make over the weekend. I've never had Cajun turkey because we're in New Orleans, but we're going to just embrace the tradition. And of course, it's the big holiday season. So what have we been talking about and tasting a lot of? Sparkling wines. And what else are we doing? Planning our holiday travel and our 2026 travel. Because one of the best things about Thanksgiving is Black Friday and Travel Tuesday. We go shopping for deals. So I'm doing a special show about a special place that David and I actually went for our honeymoon before our wedding. And the reason we're going to go there is because we want to go back. And we have a really great friend who lives in New Orleans, who is from South Africa. This is South African vineyards in my backdrop. And she recently came over so we could try some South African sparkling wines, which we're going to be talking about later on the Connected Table. I love South Africa. And my husband, David, spent his teenage years for several months in South Africa. I think his parents just shipped him off so he could like become a man or something. He loves it. I love it. We can't wait to go back. So if you are dreaming of Africa and dreaming of South Africa and you want to learn about South African wines and regions to know, this show is for you. Also, I'm spotlighting a really inspirational woman who is also a very dear friend who created her own wine import company, South to South Wine Imports, after a very successful career in law. She still has a law career, but she has created this amazing South African wine import company, exclusively bringing to the United States South African wines. And she has a really amazing portfolio. If you're ever curious about South African wines, now is your time to try them. And we're going to talk about it here so you can check it out and see what's available in your local store. Her name is Suzaan Laing, and I'm delighted to bring her to the show. Suzaan, welcome.
Hey, good morning, Melanie. Thank you so much.
Look at your beautiful face and apartment. I've actually stayed and had some wonderful evenings in that apartment. You've made some local dishes that we had. What was the one that you made us?
I made you a bobotie, and you're a vegetarian, so I made you a vegetarian bobotie with lentils. But that's a Cape Malay dish that we kind of have it as our national dish in South Africa. Sort of a sweet curry-based, almost a casserole with an eggy custard on the top.
You know, a lot of people may not realize who are watching and listening that South Africa has a long tradition of multicultural, because you've got the Cape of Good Hope. So there's a major maritime trade area. So there's Dutch influence, Indian influence, and what else?
Dutch, Malay influence. The English came in around 1790. The Dutch came in 1652. Mm-hmm. Lots of immigration happened, notably the French Huguenots, French Protestants came around 1659. German, African, Zulu, Xhosa. We have 9 official languages in South Africa. We're a multilingual, multicultural rainbow nation.
Now, you grew up there. I think on a family farm, right?
Yeah, we have a family farm in an area about 3 hours outside of Cape Town called Montague.
And you still have it, right? Is that where when you go home, is that where you stay, or do you have another place?
I have an apartment in Cape Town, very close to the waterfront, Africa's #1 tourist attraction. So I'm walking distance from the waterfront on the beach there in Cape Town. So that's where I stay. And then I stay with my parents, or my mom passed away this year, but I stay with my dad on the farm in Montague when I'm there. It's one of my favorite places in the world.
Well, as you and I've talked about it many times, and I know it's been a challenging year, and running a wine, it's been a challenging year losing your mom, but also running a wine import business in 2025 has been challenging as well because of tariffs. I'm curious before we get into how you started your business. What are some of your memories growing up in South Africa? Your food memories, the things you used to do as a young girl, to give us this flavor of what it was like growing up there.
Well, this time of year, of course, those food memories are top of mind. The
Mhm.
grandmothers and the aunts and the matriarchal cooking that happens around Christmas and New Year. So I crave a roasted lamb, specifically Karoo lamb, bobotie, chicken pie, sweet potato. We make differently than you. We have kind of a white sweet potato. We caramelize that up.
Oh.
Things my grandmother used to cook for us, but we are especially renowned for a braai, which is our version of a barbecue. And we do everything over open fire, live coals, open grids. You can braai just about everything. A braai is a very long event. You get invited to somebody's house for a braai at 7:00. You mustn't expect to eat the braai then. That's when they light the fire. You might eat something by 11:00, and you drink a lot of pinotage and great South African wine while all that's happening.
I have such amazing memories when we went. You came over to our house and we had some wonderful sparkling wines a couple of nights ago. And I told you I did this trip with 4 safaris, and you kind of rolled your eyes. And I said the best part was the sundowners, were at the end of the day safari, or any of the safaris. You would have this long spread outside your camper van, and it'd be cocktails and nibbles and biltong, which is like jerky. And it was so much fun. I wish we had that tradition here.
Yeah, sundowners. We always have a sundowner. And of course, we have really good brandy and pot still brandy. So brandy would feature in a sundowner. Wine, amarula, our cream-based liqueur.
Very
biltong,
famous.
droewors, which is the sausage version of the biltong.
So you are a lawyer by profession in copyrights and trade, right?
I'm a
Trademark.
trademark litigation attorney,
Yeah.
have always been. And so, yeah, I came to the States when I was 45, actually, to come and qualify as a U.S. lawyer as well. And so,
And you've been practicing here in Louisiana, and also, are you still practicing in South Africa?
I don't practice in Louisiana. I'm registered and I'm a member of the bar in
Okay.
Louisiana, but my practice
Okay.
mostly revolves around patent and trademark law. And so
Correct.
I do most of my US work before the US Patent and Trademarks Office. And otherwise, I project manage large litigation between the same parties happening in different countries. So if there are two companies having a dispute involving the same set of facts, but in different jurisdictions, and that is the kind of litigation that I specialize in.
So you've been really successful. And yet when I met you, and I think late 2020 or 2021, actually 2021, you had just leased a big warehouse space,
I
and
remember that night.
off the highway, and you were launching your import company, South to South, which specializes in wines of South Africa. Why did you many of my followers and guests are second chapter writers. They get a point where they're very successful in their first career. The career chose them or they chose it. But then in the second one, they decidedly chose it, or maybe they fell into it by something happened to them in life. What was it that inspired you to take the plunge into a very wonderful and gratifying business importing wine, but also it has its challenges because you then become not only the business end of it, but you got to sell the wines.
Yes. So I think the real factor was COVID. I came to the States as a 45-year-old on a sabbatical, and I did a law degree at Tulane here in New Orleans, and with the purpose of taking the bar exam in Louisiana after that, and then going home. And but New Orleans really sucks you in a good way. So immediately, so many friends, so many reasons to stay. And in that time, I also got my green card, and so I bought a condo in New Orleans, thinking this is where I was going to just come visit. And then I came for Mardi Gras in 2020, one of my absolute favorite things. And right after Mardi Gras, the signs came that everything was going to shut down. And I needed, like musical chairs, I needed to, am I going to go home right now before borders close and air travel maybe stops, or I'm going to stay? And at the time, we all thought that maybe just a few weeks, maybe a month or two, right, of the lockdown. And so I thought I'd stay here. And I didn't go home. But then South Africa's borders remained closed, and there were no flights for close to a year.
I remember that.
And
that
so
was
there was no going
exceptional.
home. And at my house in Cape Town, I had, before coming out for Mardi Gras, I had clothes in the dryer, I had food in the fridge. And then suddenly there was a whole year I just couldn't go home. And in South Africa, what happened at the time was they banned all sale of alcohol and tobacco. All sale. And that initially, yes, you couldn't, I mean, how sad is that?
It's like prohibition.
No eating, no drinking, not eating, sorry, no smoking, no drinking. And they also briefly, for a few months, banned all export of alcohol. And in my law practice, I work with a lot of the wine estates and the wine industry as a whole, and I have a deep affection and love for them and their product. And as an act of sort of patriotism at the time, and also longing, I was homesick. I decided to start importing these wines. So the ban on the exports got lifted, but the ban on the no sale of alcohol in South Africa was in effect for about a year.
I had no idea.
That was my way initially of helping, and it was a hobby and it was a passion, and it's gotten more serious as 5 years later.
Well, you have an amazing portfolio. I had no idea that was that a political ban, or I mean.
Yes, the thinking from the South African government at the time was drunk people do silly things. They jump off roofs, or they get involved in accidents. They didn't want to clog up the emergency room. And as for the cigarettes, I think they said people share cigarettes, the saliva. It was bizarre. But one of the funny stories of what happened in South Africa is people started brewing their own alcohol. So people were making pineapple beer and stuff in their baths. Desperation, and of course the contraband in tobacco products picked up dramatically.
Well, it's like prohibition here in the United States, which is it's interesting. The good news is things are different now, and it actually steered you into, as an act of patriotism, truly, and a way to and it's a survival, because many people in COVID had to rethink what they were doing. I can't imagine what it was like for you not to be able to see your family all that time. That must have been very, very hard.
Yeah, it really, really was. It was emotional actually when I finally went back, and I went back to a changed world. After a year, they had all lived through an experience of their own. Mine was different too, and and then after that I mostly shifted to living here. I still go home to Cape Town with regularity every year, but most of my life is here, and I've become a U.S. citizen as well last year.
I remember when you did. It's very exciting. You voted this year. It was you voted last year, so that was a big deal. I remember when you became a citizen, it was a big deal, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Every vote matters. So I want to talk about, one of the reasons we went to South Africa was I had dreamed of Africa. I found this amazing quote, and Africa gets into your soul, much like New Orleans does, very similar. And I love the term. It's actually an African proverb: to get lost, you learn. When you get lost, you learn the way. So it was a way to search. So we went down to search I wanted to discover Africa. And of course, I love traveling to great wine regions, even though our trip there was a lot of wine regions we visited, maybe 3. We did way too many safaris, and I would probably balance it out next trip. But what's interesting is South Africa has a very long history in wine, dating to the 17th century, and some of the oldest soils in the world. You're talking about one of the southernmost areas of the world, the other being the South Island of New Zealand, and then, of course, the southern end of South America. So you've got a lot of confluences there. When I was studying for my certified specialist in wine, I learned about the Cape Doctor and the prevailing winds. Talk to me about what it's like. I mean, it feels like California in many ways as well.
So our wine region, you're right. So we've got the oldest soil for growing wine in about 650 million years, I think. It goes back to the giant continent of Pangaea and that sort of stuff. So our soil is special, typically decomposed granite, sandstone. And then that Cape Doctor is essential for us. Although very unpleasant at times. I've had friends the last few days tell me that they'd been locked in their houses, because it blows you off your feet. But what happens around the Cape of Good Hope, the Cape of Storms, as the Portuguese called it, is that those two big oceans, the Southern Atlantic and the Indian Ocean, they meet dramatically. The Southern Atlantic Ocean is the Benguela Current that comes up from Antarctica. So that's you put your toe in the ocean there and you have an ice cream headache immediately. It's seriously very cold. The Indian Ocean that comes down from the tropics on the east coast of Africa is a warm current. And when they meet, it pushes all that cold water to the top and it picks up these stormy conditions. This Cape Doctor is a southeasterly wind and it clears up the vineyards beautifully of any pesticide, of any smog. It's the doctor also because it makes the air very fresh and is good for us. But as for winemaking, where we are, South Africa, our wine region on the globe, it should be too hot to grow the kinds of wines that we do. And the reason we grow such good wines nonetheless is because of that cold Southern Atlantic Ocean and the influence of that Cape Doctor. So the maritime influence for us is very, very important. And then you have the Simonsberg Mountain in Stellenbosch right behind you there. We also have these beautiful elevated mountains. They're absolutely glorious. And they give us some elevation too, which is another thing for the wine growing to be cooler. So between that and the cold ocean, we do the wines that we do.
Yeah. And there's several regions. You have wines from a lot of family run businesses. Yes. So I think that's really important. I mean, there are some larger investments there now, but I was on the Wines of South Africa website preparing for this to just do a little look over, but most of it's family, and a lot of the wineries you work with are. And we talked about that. A lot of the geographically, and the map I have sucks, so I didn't put it up. Geographically, the Western Cape is where the majority of wines are produced. Where is that in relation to Cape Town?
It's almost, well, in and around Cape Town, really.
Right.
I mean, some areas like Constantia or Durbanville, the sparkling wine you and I had a few nights ago. That's from Durbanville. I mean,
let's show a picture of those wines, Juan.
That's right in the on the sort of suburban outskirts of Cape Town. And then the rest, the areas like Stellenbosch, the picture behind you, Paarl, Franschhoek. I mean, those are a half an hour to a 40-minute drive directly from the city center of Cape Town. So those areas all surround Cape Town. You go out a little bit further, maybe an hour, 2 hours, you get to places like the Swartland, Hermanus, the Hemel and Aarde. And so it's all around that area. And that, of course, is all around the area where these two big oceans have this great influence for us. But then when it comes to more bulk wine production, you go up to the Northern Cape, to the area around the Orange River, which is the border between South Africa and Namibia on the west coast. A lot of wine is produced there as well. But then we typically go more into the bulk wine area.
So amazing soils. And you've got the altitude, and you've got the winds. Just for everybody, the wind is so important, and because it purifies the air. You've got these divergent winds with different temperatures, so it's just an optimum condition to grow grapes. Now, South Africa grows many grapes and is known for many styles of wine, but there are a few that are standouts that I would say, if you were going to your local retailer looking at a restaurant list, you should look for. And there are certain terms to understand when you look for wines, because it's wine. They're called, there's an overall term in wines of origin.
Yes.
Which means they were authentically South African. What are some other things that you would, let's start with, what are some of the standout wines or grapes that are produced in South Africa, and where, because some, and then also I want you to talk about what you should look for when you're considering buying South African wines, what you should be looking for, so you're getting something authentic.
Yes. So our standout grape varietal by a long shot is Chenin Blanc. As a country, we produce more Chenin Blanc than all the other countries in the world combined do. We typically make them from old vines. In the old days under apartheid, there was a quota system. The farmers were given for what they could produce, how much they could get for the wine, where they had to grow what. And there was a lot of Chenin Blanc grown for making brandy. And so now there are lots of these old vines, old vineyards left. And so we produce so many different styles of Chenin, from a fresh stainless steel tank fermented screw cap bottle, absolutely delicious, crispy, high acidity, to something that compares to a Vouvray, where we do barrel fermentation, ferment in amphora, concrete eggs, wood maturation. I mean, our Chenins are truly magnificent. I don't think you can buy a bad South African Chenin. And when you've had one South African Chenin, try others, because the styles are so different. The bush vines that they're grown from and so on. The other red wine that you have to look out for is our Pinotage. It's our very own homegrown varietal. It was created in South Africa in 1925 by a Stellenbosch University professor who rubbed the blossoms of Cinsault and Pinot Noir together, and it created seedlings, which we called Pinotage. Pinotage, in fact, in this year, 2025, is 100 years old. This whole year has been given to the centenary for Pinotage. And that's a delicious grape. And I also don't believe that we make any bad Pinotage. And if tomorrow a meteorite was to strike Earth and I could have one last glass of wine tonight, it would be a Pinotage.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting. Because for some it's an acquired taste. I love it, but again, like many wines, you're going to try different producers and styles to settle on what you love.
Yes.
And it is a wonderful wine for those braai and those barbecue.
And we make fantastic red blends, and our Sauvignon Blanc is very distinctive, really fruitiness. And then you asked me about territories, regions, appellations to look out for. Our number one region, our most premium region, is Stellenbosch. That's your background. But we make amazing wines in Franschhoek, in Robertson, in Paarl, in the Swartland, in Constantia. Constantia is our oldest wine producing region.
And it's very close to, it's really, really close to Cape Town. I mean, you're driving down, it's there.
And Napoleon, on his deathbed on St. Helena Island, he called for his favorite wine, which was the Vin de Constance from Constantia. And I understand even George Washington was drinking that wine in his famous tent. So it goes back, our history.
Now, that wine is, as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a sweeter wine, the Vin Constantia.
Yes,
right?
It's a naturally sweet wine.
Yeah, it's a naturally sweet wine. And it's, I've got I happen to have my certified specials of wine notebook right here to make sure. And it is a very famous, I don't ever call a sweet wine dessert wine. We actually talked about this the other night when we were having some of your wonderful sparklings, which you can talk about. I call a sweet wine because many sweet wines can be enjoyed with savory dishes and savory cheeses and blue cheeses. And so you never want to just call it a dessert wine, even though it's commonly enjoyed at the end of a meal with sweet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's just my thing. Fun fact. So Chenin is a standout, and I happen to love Chenin from both South Africa and the Loire Valley, my two favorite places. And the ancient word, or the historic word, is steen.
Yes. Steen. I'm always surprised when people in the U.S. know that word steen, because, I mean, we speak, I'm Afrikaans is my first language, which is like Dutch, and we say steen. Steen literally translates to stone. And of course, Chenin was also historically, we believe, the first grape to be planted in the Cape. We're the only country with a birthday for our wine industry. We know exactly when the first wine was made. It was February the 2nd, 1659. Because the Dutch governor wrote in his diary on that day, "Praise be to God, today we finally made wine from Cape grapes." So we know it was Chenin Blanc. So Chenin goes all the way back for us to that very early day. And that's when it was still called steen. Yeah.
So is there a big, what happens on that date? Is there a celebration?
It should be. I think wines of South Africa do make a celebration of it. We should have a national holiday, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, goodness knows they do it here. I mean, I get press releases like it's National Day, it's National Wine Day, it's National Wine Day every day for me. It's National Tempranillo Day, it's National, it's all promotional. But that's really great that there's actually a date. Now, another term, and I'm going through the terms so that when any of you who are watching, listening, want to go and ask about South African wines or feel confident ordering them on a list, you know the terms, because I think it's good to know. Besides, you're probably entertaining and paying the bill, so you want to make sure you know your terms right. Let's talk about sparkling, because we had some sparkling wines, and I have all my notes here the other night because we're doing another show on sparkling wines later today. Cap Classique is the term. Why was it created?
So Cap Classique is a very young appellation for us. It started in 1971. So Cap Classique is exactly as old as I am, 54 years old. So it's new for us in our industry. And we're making better and better Cap Classiques all the time. A Cap Classique translates as Cape Classic. Other terms for it that you'll find is Method Cap Classique or MCC. It means a wine that's made in the traditional method, the same method they employ in champagne. We've never in South Africa used champagne generically because we had a bilateral trade agreement with the French in 1926. In which we said we wouldn't, and we never did. So we don't say it's our champagne, or we don't even use Method Champenois or anything like that, but that's the way that it's made. As a young sort of a wine offering from South Africa, it's growing really, really fast. It's the fastest grower in our industry. And yet we still only export around 18% of what we produce locally of that. Out of that 18%, most of it goes, as with most of our wines, to Europe. And so not many Cap Classiques reach American shores. And our prices on Cap Classique are really great compared to, champagne. And we make it in different styles too, from different varietals. Unlike the French, we're not constricted to what varietals may go into it. The wine that you and I had the other night was a Cap Classique made from 100% Colombar.
Yes. Silverthorn River Dragon.
Yeah, you can have a Cap Classique from 100% Chenin Blanc or Shiraz.
It's actually, I've had a few different ones. There's a big one. What's the one with not Graham Kerr. He was a cookbook writer. Graham Beck. Graham Kerr was a cookbook. Yeah. That was the one I was most familiar with, particularly the rosé. But I just, two of the ones that we had, and I have all my notes, Suzaan, we had the Natita, which is in Durbanville. Talk to me, and what does Natita mean? And talk to me about it was founded in 1990, a family.
Yes.
What's the story behind the winery?
So Natita is the name of a type of protea flower. So our national flower is the protea. It's kind of a giant bloom. It looks a bit like an aphrodisiac. Aphrodisiac, where's my head? An artichoke.
No, but it sounds good to me.
Cap Classique might be an aphrodisiac.
But you have enough of these wines, they are aphrodisiacs.
But there are different types of proteas, and Natita is a type of protea that grows in a tree. And the owners of this farm, we say farm in South Africa for a winery, we say wine farm. Bernard Veller and his wife, they started this in 1990. They called it Natita. She's an artist. The wood of the Natita plant is what the pioneers in South Africa used for ink. And she created the labels on those bottles with the Natita ink. And so that's kind of...
One, put the photo back up, because some of the
not
labels,
those labels, though.
Put the photo back up. Juan's my engineer, so I can... So the first one is, and I have my notes, as I said, the Natita is a 2023, and they're called the matriarch. They're named after the mother, which is very symbolic because mothers are very important to you. And sadly, you lost your money this year, and I lost mine in 2020, and always 2022. And I always think about mothers this time of the year. But it's great Mother's Day, anything to honor your mother. This one is it's 50/50 Chardonnay Pinot Noir, and that's a classic champagne, method traditional mix in 18 months on lees. And as the longer you age on lees, the more you get that wonderful brioche character that is so wonderful in toast. And it honors the matriarchs who played such a pivotal role in establishing and building Natita. So it's a very special wine for that.
Well, I must just tell you quickly what that specific little matriarch is named for Bernard's wife, who passed away from breast cancer a few years.
That's right.
And there's a tiny picture of her on the neck label as well. So
yeah, and then the one that I just absolutely loved. I love them both, but the Grand Matriarch, which is a Blanc de Noir, which means it's 100% Pinot Noir, but even though Pinot Noir is a red grape, as you know, the juices are white, and 30 months on lees. So this has a lot of savory characteristics to it, and was very silky, almost had an amber color to it.
Yes.
It's really elegant, and I've got a lot of buckthorn, a lot of interesting floral notes into it. Beautiful wines. And I think the retail price I was looking at, that there is still under 50. I don't know about the Grand Matriarch, but when I went on wine.com and Wine Searcher, I saw around 35 to 40. I don't know now, because we never know what's going on in the world.
I think you're right. It's around $33 a bottle.
Yeah. So those are good prices. Everything is higher now than before, because we were just at a Martin's wine cellar, and I was bowled over by how expensive Beaujolais was, just because of what's going on in the world. But very good value, because many French champagnes start at 50 and go up from there, just so you know. And then the Silverthorn which is Colombard, so totally different, and from the Robertson Valley. Where is the Robertson Valley? Where's my map? Robertson Valley.
Northeast of Cape Town, about 3 hours ride in a car from Cape Town.
Yeah.
It's a valley through which the Breeder River runs.
It's a river valley. So very alluvial soils, right?
Alluvial, so the kind of sandy soils. It also has, there's kind of 3 different types of soils there. And it's the only wine growing area in South Africa, interestingly, where the lime occurs naturally and abundance in the soil. And it was perplexing because we knew that wasn't not typically, it wasn't in the past an ocean floor, right? So why? Yeah. And the reason why is that there are these giant ancient termite mounds that created these deposits of limestone in the soil in Robertson. So Robertson is known as the valley for wine, roses, and horses.
Yes.
The horses, roses, and Chardonnay do very well in Robertson.
Interesting. I've not been there, but I was interested in I've only been to Franschhoek, Stellenbosch, and Constantia. Not even a lot of time in Constantia. We spent most of our time in Franschhoek and Stellenbosch. So we missed Paarl, Paarl, which is north of Cape Town. We just needed more time. And, the wines are different, like anywhere when you travel, they're going to be somewhat different in their style based on the terroir. The Robertson Valley interests me a lot because of all the reasons you said. And this is a beautiful wine. Colombard has its own characteristic to it. And it's called the River Dragon, Silverthorn River Dragon. What's the story behind that? It's this last one.
So owners John and Karen Loebscher, they own Silverthorn. It's the small estate, and they produce only Cup Classiques. In fact, John, just now in South Africa, in the Platters Wine Guide, was awarded South Africa's top.
Yes.
I mean, he really is a master of Cup Classique. But when you stand on the porch stoop, as we say, of their winery, and you look out over the Breeder River, there's a chain of mountains behind that looks like a dragon lying on its back. And John loves the African night sky and fossils, and he loves mythology and those stories. And there's a mythology of the types of dragons to be found in the world. And the laziest of the dragons was the African dragon, and he was also very friendly. He mostly liked to float on his back in the sky, writing with smoke in the sky. And so if you stand on the porch of this winery and you look out over that mountain range and there's some clouds over it, it looks like the Dracus africanus. And so he named this Cap Classique of his the river dragon. And me now living in New Orleans and looking out over the Mississippi River, I felt the wine belongs here too.
Well, it's and in the photo, it's the one to the furthest to the right. All the labels are beautiful, but the you've got the matriarch, the grand matriarch Natita, and then the Silverthorn River Dragons, the far right on the screen. When you told us that story, I remember thinking about Puff the Magic Dragon.
Yeah, I think that dragon is like that.
Who lived by the sea.
Yeah, happy dragon.
Who frolicked in the land of Honolulu, where we were supposed to be this week, but we're not. We're here in New Orleans. Honolulu is in Kauai. Really exotic. Now, you've organized trips for like regular people, but when you have customers go down, because your wines are sold. Well, before we get into where they're sold, are there other wines that you would love to highlight that maybe you think really and that you bring in that really show the character of South Africa and the spirit that maybe are available that would be fun to talk about? I think you have one called Problem Child, or is it Wild Child?
Wild Child. Wild Child is from Natita as well. It's an interesting. Let's just talk about that one because it's kind of fun. There's a lot of talk about natural fermentation, right? Fermentation where you don't add commercial yeast and the wine ferments by itself.
Trendy.
And for winemakers, generally, natural fermentation is stressful because it might not start. A lot could go wrong in the fermentation that you can control. But also, it may be not as natural because if you are naturally fermenting inside of a cellar, there is a lot of ambient yeast in the air, ambient commercial yeast that kind of also it leads to the natural fermentation.
Right.
So what Natita does with their Wild Child Sauvignon Blanc is they take the juice in plastic crates and they carry it by hand all the way back up into the actual vineyard, and they let the juice stand there, and that the fermentation then literally starts in the vineyard. And that I think takes a lot of courage. I mean, obviously, everybody's in there. And so that is a truly, truly natural ferment wine, their Wild Child Sauvignon Blanc.
So if you're into, for me, winemaking is natural, but this is even more because things just have to happen, which means, as you said, anything can happen for the good or the bad. So I
don't think that adding commercial yeasts to wine is a bad thing at all. I think it's like a chef who then has lots more components to play with. This same winemaker, when he makes his Semillon, he ferments it in 4 different batches. Each one he inoculates with a different strain of yeast that he wants different qualities from, and he then makes a blend. And so that's like making some fantastic French dish,
right,
where you have all these different ingredients and the luxury to work with them. So natural ferment is great. The outcome isn't always predictable, but I don't think it's so unnatural to inoculate with commercial yeast. But
exactly,
that's another topic.
Yeah, natural wines, I sometimes roll my eyes because to me it's all a natural. I mean, what's unnatural, Suzaan? No alcohol wine. That's re-engineered wine. We've had a lot of debates, and while there is a market for it, and I'm not going to say there isn't because there is a big, because I learned that like 40% of the country doesn't drink alcohol.
We've got to change that.
Well, I mean, some of it is health and religion. You can't necessarily change that, but that means that there's more for us to enjoy. But there is a place. But I am an ardent wine consumer and love the process of how wine is made and the story and the place of origin, which is what South Africa is so special, because these wines do have wines of origin. They're very unique to their country and their region. And that's the way all wine should be wherever you travel in the world. Now, for anyone who's thinking about going to South Africa, we talked the other night about how probably 4 safaris were too many. Of course, 2 were in South Africa and 2 were in Botswana, which is a different country, but it was a lot. While many people dream of going on safaris, and they're wonderful, but they're very expensive and they're very scheduled and you eat a lot. What are some other things you would recommend besides doing a safari? What are the
I think
things you most
for an
cherish?
American traveler who's coming to South
Mm-hmm.
Africa for the first time, there are now amazing direct flights that take you directly to Cape Town. United flies out of Washington, D.C. Delta flies out of Atlanta. They take you directly to Cape Town. It is a long flight and it puts a lot of people off, but get yourself to Cape Town. You can never possibly be disappointed. That is a first world city. It is, I think, naturally speaking, in terms of the ocean and the mountains, it is the most beautiful city in the world. And it's a first world city. It's got amazing restaurants and, hotels, and there's no end to how spoiled you will feel being there, in the shopping and all of that. So start your journey in Cape Town. If you are coming to South Africa, take at least 10 days, but it's preferable that you take 2. Out of Cape Town, you can fly to the safari destinations that would typically be around the Kruger National Park, one of the private game reserves there, or to Botswana, where you and David went, the Okavango Delta, or Chobe, or Namibia. It's all about a 2-hour flight out of Cape Town. Go have a safari. A safari should be about 3 nights, 4 days.
Right.
And they are amazing. But they are so luxurious that the eating and the drinking and that idea of that absolute white linen, high thread count luxury in the middle of the wilderness is quite something.
Yeah.
And then in Cape Town, spend some time on the beach, on the oceans, go to the winelands, go up Table Mountain, go to the Cape of Good Hope, where the 2 oceans literally meet dramatically. That's a day's outing. Go see the penguins.
Hermanus, right?
The penguins are at Boulders Beach in Simonstown.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a colony of African penguins, which we call the jackass penguins, and that's because they sound like donkeys. They make a braying sound. They're incredibly cute to see. Spend a lot of time on the waterfront, the amazing art museums, the shopping, the food. Your itinerary will be very full. If you can make it a bit further out, get to Hermanus, go see the whales. The best land-based whale watching in the world is in Hermanus. You can literally just walk along the cliff tops and the whales will be doing tricks.
Is there a season for that?
The season typically starts around August to December for the whales, but some whales, because they come for their migration, they come and have their babies there in Walker Bay.
So August would be the end of winter into spring, or am I getting it? Remember, everybody, it's opposite seasons.
Some of the whales have decided just to stay, so they often see whales all through the year. Yeah.
I did. We spent New Year's Eve in Cape Town, and we went Christmas week. I think I'd like to have spent more time in Cape Town, but we spent a lot of time in Stellenbosch and Franschhoek and Constantia visiting wineries, and we just went. We didn't even have an appointment. We just showed up. I don't know if you can do that now, but we did. And it's so worth it, but take your time because you don't want to rush it. And then we went to Hermanus. We saw the penguins. We went to the Cape of Good Hope. It's like a lot of feral monkeys down there. That was my birthday gift to myself.
Baboons.
They're baboons. They were everywhere.
They're like gangsters.
Yeah, they are gangsters. They'll steal anything. So just hold on to everything you have and go to see the baboons. We have a photo of us there. That was my birthday gift. And then we went on to Kruger, and the safaris are luxurious and so romantic. I mean, this is an ideal honeymoon trip.
Yes.
For sure. And that's pretty much what we did, except it was before the wedding, because I also turned it into a birthday trip. It is one of the most amazing, romantic, and stunning bucket list trips that I think everybody needs to do. I know I want to go again. Yes. And Cape Town, as you mentioned Namibia, which is nearby. You could spend your entire time in South Africa. There is so much to do. But if you're going to go the distance, take the extra time, because it is a long trip. And you get back how often now, Suzaan?
Well, a lot. Last year I went to Cape Town 5 times.
Yes,
and every time I stay maybe about 6 weeks. I just I spent all of August and September in Cape Town.
Yeah.
Been back almost 2 months now, so it's a lot. I spend the majority of my time here, but I think it comes close to about half in total that does get spent in Cape Town. So I have my family, my friends. There's a whole other life there. Most of the base for my law practice is still in Cape Town. Yeah.
Well, you've got a great double life because you've got the best of both worlds. New Orleans is an amazing place to live,
isn't it?
Yeah, and like Cape Town, it's just a multiverse of cultures and spirit. And South Africa is the same way, just this amazing culturally diverse area and great food. Same like New Orleans, just the great migrations came through, and they were both similarly trading ports, major trading ports on the water. So you've got that influence as well. Of course, the Cape of Good Hope is one of the most dangerous ones to navigate. It's famous for the incredible shipwrecks, so there's an amazing history there. I can't wait to go back. Your wines. First of all, share your website if people want to learn more about working with you or getting your wines or learning about the wines.
Thank you. So it is south2southwines.com.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing wines from the south of Africa to the deep south of the U.S. and I have a warehouse here in New Orleans and distribution in the southern states surrounding me.
So if you come to New Orleans, and everybody should be coming to New Orleans, you'll see Suzaan's wines on several menus, wine lists at terrific restaurants, and we always try to order them when we go because we love them.
Thank you.
And we love you. And I hope everybody's excited about stepping out of your comfort zone and looking to try something new. Try some South African wines. The South African sparkling wines are terrific. I know everybody's stocking up for the season. And Travel Tuesday's coming up, and everybody should be planning a big trip because you only live once. And as they say in Italy, mai dire mai, now or never. So do that now or never trip because you only live once and you do it when you're in your prime. Suzaan, thank you. Is there a toast that when you toast everybody to life or when you're toasting with wine, is there one you can say in Afrikaans?
In Afrikaans, we just say gezondheid, which is like gesundheid, I suppose. Health. Gesondheid.
Well, yeah. I don't think I'm going to study Afrikaans on my Duolingo. I'm just starting Portuguese, and I'm already having difficulty with that.
No, but the pronunciation. I mean, the language is the pronunciation might be hard. But you have a willing teacher. I'd love to speak.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to learn that, and when I go back down, I always try to study the language of where I go. That's like my thing. But let's toast again in the holidays. I know I'll see you soon. I hope everybody here has, even though this is an evergreen show, I'm still going to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving because that's what I do. And I like to end my show this way. And Suzaan is an example. You have choices in your life on how you want to live. You may have one career one day. You may have a new career another day. You may have one husband one day. You may have another one another day. The point is, do things on your terms and not on the terms of those set by others who want you to live up to their standards. You set your own standards and live your way. And of course, on your terms, and always choose Fearless and Fabulous. I'm Melanie Young. Follow me at Melanie Fabulous. Check out all my shows on more than 65 podcast channels and YouTube. And thanks for joining me, Suzaan. And thank you, everybody out there.